Welcome everybody to Don G. Corleone Reviews and Reactions, and always remember people, that's life.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
I'm not even supposed to be here today! Oh, fuck you!
Come on, you want me to drive? You're supposed to be suicidal. Remember, I'll
Anybody
drive.
a drive?
Get in the car.
Fucking shit! Fuck me in the fucking ass! Fuck you, you fucking stupid cunt!
Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I am here with a brand new movie review, and this movie review is going to be for 2019's Joker, directed by Todd Phillips, a director I recently have lost respect for. But that's saved for later. But, so, what is the plot of Joker? Well, this Joker is kind of an alternate take on the Batman villain of the same name. This time it's about a socially inept clown for hire named Arthur Fleck who aspires to be a stand-up comedian with a small job working dressed as a clown holding a sign for advertising. He takes care of his mother, Penny Fleck, and as he learns more about his mental illness, he learns more about his past. So he deals with all the negativity and bullying from society, he heads downwards on a spiral, and turns slowly becomes his alter ego Joker. Yeah, so how was Joker made? Well, Todd Phillips, fresh off making The Shitty Hangover 3, and was recently directing the more drama noir film, I forget the name of it, in 2016. Todd Phillips had conceived Joker in that year and wrote the script with Silver throughout 2017. The two were inspired by 1970s character studies in the films of Martin Scorsese like Taxi Driver, The King of Comedy. Scorsese was attached to the project as producer initially. The film even adopts elements from Batman the Killing Joke and The Dark Knight Returns. But Todd Phillips and Joel Silver otherwise did not look to specific comics for inspiration, nor did they wish for it to be connected to any prior Batman film continuity. So lead actor Joaquin Phoenix got attached to the project in February 2018 and was cast by July, and the majority of the cast signed on by August. Filming took place in New York City and Jersey City from September to December 2018, and unlike most Batman films that have been rated PG-13, even the darkest ones, Batman Returns and Batman 1989, and The Dark Knight have been rated PG-13, and those are the darkest Batman films. The Batman 2022 was rated PG-13 as well. Even that's a pretty dark film. This one, though, Joker, is the first one of all those theatrical films to receive an R rating from the MPA. Yeah. So, after Joker was officially completed and ready to be released, it would first premiere at the 76th Venice International Film Festival on August 31st, 2019, where it won the Golden Lion and got released to the public into theaters officially on October 4th, 2019. And when this movie released, this movie set records for an October release. It was a massive success at the box office, making over $1 billion, becoming the first R-rated film to do so, and was the highest grossing R-rated film until this year. It got surpassed by Deadpool and Wolverine this summer. And also became the sixth highest grossing film of 2019, because, well, there was a bunch of billion-dollar grossers back in that year. Back when the box office was really successful. And the film received multiple awards, such as 2 Academy Award wins at the Academy Awards for Best Original Score and Best Actor for Joaquin Phoenix, and was even nominated for Best Picture, and became the first DC film to be nominated for Best Picture. And this year, we got a sequel. Yeah. We don't need to talk about that film, though. Let's talk about the one that's actually good. The one that's not shit. The one that deserves the praise. Because as for my reaction, Joker is easily my favorite movie of 2019 and one of my favorite DC movies and movies in general. Before that shitty sequel came out, this film was a terrific little alternate take on one of the most iconic Batman villains out there, and you can definitely see why Joaquin Phoenix won the Oscar for this role. Like, Joker really definitely deserves to be presented at that film festival, because it was like a movie that really regards like the old ages of cinema as a form of art, because it's not like it's a comic film, but it's not supposed to be a blockbuster or an entertainment movie, as most films in that genre are. This movie focuses on the psyche of a main character who slowly crumbles under the pressure of society. And Joaquin Phoenix does a very wonderful performance for the character and really deserved the award he got at the Oscars. Like, it's this take on the Joker that differs from Ledger's, but usually I'd say both this and Ledger are the best Jokers. And main difference is that Ledger's Joker is irrational and he acts insane. Phoenix's is insane to the root. Joaquin Phoenix's performance, like this is definitely the best performance of his career. I'd say tie with Johnny Cash for Walk the Line. Right there, you really see a challenged person being challenged by society, and it breaks him down over time. Joaquin's not really just acting, like he really is evolving all throughout the film. Right there. Like, now, yeah, the movie is a little slow to start at first, but it kind of has to be slow to start. Because we can't just jump into the Joker and all the chaos. Like, we need to know where it came from to begin with. Like, the whole compilation of the movie is amazing. Then the award-deserving performance of Joaquin Phoenix as well, the choreography, the cinematography, the score, everything in this film is kind of perfect. Like, aside from like the controversy that surrounded during the advertising movie, but the team really put together this perfect movie right there. It definitely wasn't like many of the Karens were trying to make this out to be. It was promoting you to be violent. We can't screen this. We need to boycott it. It's gonna make people violent. Ah, man. Yeah, sure. This movie isn't about that. It's not supposed to be about that. I don't know where they got that idea from. Just because the movie is called Joker. It's about a villain character. Suddenly means you're gonna become a violent psychopath if you go see this movie, so we need to not let you see it. Yeah, that did not work out at all. That did not work. Like, this is definitely Phoenix's best performance. Yeah. Like, he really carries the entire movie flawlessly. Right there, and the brilliant method actor really ensures that people really feel this character's pain, and it does not disappoint for a second. Our other star, Robert De Niro's in this movie, is definitely also gives a fine performance as Arthur Fleck's favorite comedy talk show host, Murray Franklin, but he's only moved for like 10 to 15 minutes, but he still does a well job depicting this phony television personality host. You have Brett Cullen does make an appearance in this film. He also does give a pretty fine performance as our new Thomas Wayne, this Thomas Wayne is not very sympathetic. In fact, he's honestly this version of him is a bit of a jerk. But he has a part in Joker's madness. Now, how does this movie Joker start? Well, we start off with our main character, Arthur Fleck, who is working as this professional clown and wants to be a stand-up comedian. He lives with his mother, Penny, this pretty much Great Depression version of Gotham. He suffers from this disorder that causes him to have this random laugh. He requires medication, which he depends on social services to obtain. After Arthur gets attacked by a bunch of street youths while on the job, his coworker, Randall, pretty much gives him a revolver, saying that he needs to learn how to fend for himself. Arthur doesn't want the gun, but Randall makes him take it anyway. Then, of course, Arthur is trying to pursue this relationship with this neighbor named Sophie Dunham, who's played by Zazie Beetz, and he invites her to see his routine at a comedy club. Then, of course, eventually, though, one day, when Arthur is performing his clown act at a children's hospital, during that If You're Happy and You Know It's song for all the kids in the hospital, his gun falls out of falls out and drops on the floor, and everybody sees it, and so Arthur's fired, and not only that, but apparently Randall actually sells out Arthur, saying he tried to buy the gun from him. So pretty much Randall just basically betrayed Arthur so he wouldn't get blamed. Right there, so Randall basically stabs Arthur in the back right there. So he's riding home on the subway, still wearing his clown makeup. Then, of course, these three drunk businessmen who are harassing his girl, he starts laughing during that, so he's mocked and assaulted by them. And these men are actually working for Wayne Investments, so he fatally shoots two of them in self-defense and murders the third when he tries to flee. Right there, and then you have a bit of a scenario in the bathroom. Kind of the scenario in the kind of like the station bathroom. There, and then he kind of goes back to collect the stains. One of the dwarfism employee there, Gary, does try to apologize and actually says he's sorry that Arthur got fired. And Randall putting on this fake nice act, saying it wasn't fair to be fired like that, which obviously none of us are falling for his bullshit. And of course, Randall kind of mocks Arthur kind of mocks Randall's attempted sell him, pretty much saying like, oh, hey, I still owe you for that gun, don't I? So after Arthur gets his things and leaves the place after being fired, Thomas Wayne then pretty much condemns the killings, but that convinces protesters to start sporting clown masks in Arthur's image. Are now looking up to this clown that murdered these three. Then budget cuts shut down the social services program though, so Arthur's left with no medication. In this movie, just like watching and hearing the Joker's laugh is very twisty and evil, and you can hear his sadness coming out from his mouth. You hear the hours of practice on the laugh alone. His method acting is perfect on point, with all the gestures and dances he does throughout the film that's done perfectly as a Joker should be. It really has all the psychological twisting that really makes you believe and you're immersed into the movie. It's more than just like a comic book character's origin story. Like, it's this brutally dark and brilliant depiction of one man's descent into madness, and the director of the movie does bring all the elements together when he did this movie to create one of the bleakest incarnations of the classic character. Another thing that does impress me is that they really take some steps back from like the Batman universe, but they don't really break connections to the Batman universe in a way. Right there. And like the connections aren't really strong or really classified as not a comic adaptation, but remembering that's the Joker's a Batman character. It's supposed to be kind of somewhat, the city's still called Gotham. So you're going to get some Batman connections right here, but just because it's a comic movie, it's not your typical first gen or like, he's not like your typical comic villain you've seen in a lot of other Batman media. And it doesn't even follow like typical like DC adaptations of comics though. Like, it's not an adaptation of any superhero comic. It's not even a superhero movie. There's not even any CGI effects. Like, there's no half-hour long fight sequences. Like, no like aliens coming to like invade Earth. Like, there's not even a Batman as Joker. Yeah, you get a Bruce Wayne in the movie as a kid in like 2 scenes, but that's about it. Joker doesn't birth from a chemical accident neither, and not from like the action. But this time, this Joker is born from the actions of a cruel society where you kind of have to make a comfort zone, and then losing that. So anyway, after Thomas Wayne kind of condemns the murderers and more protesters start dressing up in clown masks and clown makeup. So what we think is Sophie attending, I'll get to that part later. Well, we see from Arthur's point of view, she is attending Arthur's stamp routine, but sadly though, because of his laughing disorder, it fails and his jokes fall flat. Then Arthur intercepts a letter from Penny to Thomas and reveals that he's kind of Thomas's illegitimate son, and it was actually Braitz's mother finding the truth of his parentage. So he goes to Wayne Manor one day, and he meets Bruce Wayne, but he flees after Alfred Pennyworth sees him and tells him to get off his property, threatening to call the police. Then, of course, though, Penny suffers a stroke, and she has to go to the hospital. And some 2 cops that heard about his firing, they want to ask him some questions, but Arthur kind of denies that stuff and goes inside the hospital. And so, what we see from Arthur's point of view, Sophie's at the hospital with him, and then, of course, after what we think she's there before we find out that a twist later leaves, Arthur's idol, Murray Franklin, who Arthur idolizes throughout the film and even dreams of being on the show and even meeting in person, Murray Franklin presents clips of Arthur's failed performance on a show and even mockingly calls him a Joker. Right there. And so you kind of see Arthur kind of you can kind of see Arthur upset his own idol is now even making fun of him. Even that bit right there. Like, so then after that bit, Arthur then heads to this movie theater where some protesters are outside, but he manages to sneak in disguised as an usher. It's during a screening of this Charlie Chaplin film, and so he confronts Thomas at that movie theater. Thomas denies being his father, but he claims Penny's not his biological mother. And right there, but Arthur insists it's his dad, and Thomas is getting mad about this. He punches Arthur in the face because apparently he had heard that his actions with Bruce Wayne the previous day, and so he pretty much tells him, "Touch my son, and touch my son again, I'll kill you." There, so this Thomas Wayne may be an asshole, but at least at the very least, he still cares about cares about his son. In that moment shows he at least still cares about his son. There, and so then he goes to Arkham. So Arthur goes to Arkham Asylum, and he reads Penny's file, which this one staff member that's played by Brian Tyree Henry gives him, and states that she was a delusional narcissist that adopted Arthur while working as a housekeeper for the Waynes, and then developed this intimate relationship with Thomas. That included Arthur being their biological son. So at the same time, Penny raised Arthur, an abusive boyfriend who physically and sexually abused him, and Penny ignored all that, and that led to his disorder. So then it finds out he steals the file from Arkham, and he reads it. Then after that, we find out in this twist where you see a distraught Arthur entering Sophie's apartment unannounced. Sophie sees him and she's frightened by that, and she asks him to leave, and that's where you find out. Those scenes when you thought Sophie was attending the routine, or was walking home with him, or was at the hospital with him, she was never there. She never was. It was all Arthur's imagination. They never had a relationship. She never went to the stand routine. She never went to the hospital with him. She never walked home with him at all. And Arthur exits the apartment after he does kind of stare at her and give the that expression at her, but obviously he does not kill her at all. I don't think Arthur would do that, but he does leave the apartment. And you can kind of see the pressure on his face knowing that their relationship never happened. And because he did invite him to the stand-up routine, but she never came, so yeah, Phoenix does also do a really good part in this performance right here with that facial expression he has, knowing clearly you can see how sad Arthur looks knowing the relationship never happened and likely never will happen. So the next day, Arthur goes to the hospital. He's visiting his mother Penny, and then so eventually then he pretty much kills Penny by smothering her with a pillow at the hospital. And surprisingly, he never really gets noticed right there. That's kind of a bit of a surprise, but still. This movie does well in showing the slow and steady fall of the Joker into insanity, and it really feels realistic that you actually do feel a strange empathy towards this alternate version of the Joker, and that comes to justify his actions, when he commits the most heinous crimes. That's what makes the film incredible. It's most a lot of movies seem to really do this backstory stuff and kind of failing at it. Joker actually does it really well because it actually really takes the right notes, and it actually does take the right notes, and it doesn't have too much of a lazy generic backstory right there, or to the point where he's just a brainless sociopath. No, this guy, this is a guy who actually do feel sympathy for. Society treats him like shit. There, and you can definitely see why he's starting to become this iconic villain. It really takes a villain good guy type of filmmaking and it just flips it right on its head. The cinematography captures this perfectly. It definitely does not feel rushed to a scene, and it keeps you glued to your seat very well. Especially with the great music, the great songs that play during all the 70s music, and score that can tour this film perfectly. Heck, you can start off the movie with an old 70s Warner Bros. Logo. This movie really does feel like you're watching a 70s film. Just kind of released in the 2010s, kind of the last year of the 2010s. When it came to Heath Ledger's Joker, Ledger was actor Heath Ledger was committed to the role with the unnerving presence that earned him the posthumous Academy Award, because sadly during the making of the movie he had passed on. Sadly, before the movie could come out, may he rest in peace. And his Joker really became a benchmark in comic book cinema. One of the most iconic Joker in all of cinema. And then, of course, like once 2019 came, like 11 years later, he had Joaquin Phoenix playing this different version of Joker, this standalone origin story that delves really deep into the psyche of the clown prince of crime. And Phoenix' performance like really does offer this raw exploration of mental illness, societal decay, and the descent into madness that all come with it. His Joker is kind of more of a product of broken society and a tragic figure whose transformation is actually terrifying and heart-wrenching at the same time. So, of course, after Arthur has killed his mother, and we find out that the relationship that he had with Sophie was all hallucination, it never happened. Arthur then like hides in the fridge at one point when the police that visited him earlier are trying to call. And then of course the next day he gets a call from one of the Murray Franklin show staff members that's saying that he got invited to be on Murray's show. And of course, the plan is like originally his plan is to kind of kill himself with his revolver during the broadcast. Right there, because like you see a bit of a rehearsal during one of the Murray Show broadcasts where he's imagining himself on taking that gun he still has, and then kind of like shooting himself with no bullets there. Originally, that's his plan to kind of kill himself. So when he's crafting that clown-inspired persona, like putting on the clown makeup, he gets visited by his two former coworkers, Gary, the only one that was nice to him, and of course the Randall, the one that got him fired. And when he comes to the scene, like it turns out like they're there to cheer him up because they found out about his mother's death. But then you find out like Randall kind of asks that, and it reveals that cops have been coming to his old work and talking about all the subway murders. But then Gary obviously knows that. Gary kind of reveals that it's clear that Randall is trying to sell him out, and Gary's pretty much like, they didn't talk to me. Well, that's because the sucker was a regular sized person. He was a fucking midget. You'd be in jail right now. And then Arthur does kind of give that one of those laughs he has throughout the film, but not laughing around his joke. Like this is throughout the film, his laughs are kind of either when he's either sad or when he's nervous because he has that disorder that causes him to laugh around times. This laugh was more of a pissed off laugh because like Gary's the only one that's nice to him, and of course he remembers that Randall got him fired, so it's clear that Arthur is actually pissed that Randall not just because Randall is trying to clearly rat him out, but also clearly making a dwarfism joke about Gary. Is clearly pissed off for those clearly a pissed off laugh he gives. There, so like when Randall's trying to ask Arthur what he said to those two police, immediately Arthur and fatally stabs Randall, and like this right here was a very jaw-dropping moment in the cinema when I went to go see this opening night. This like a year before I started YouTube. There, when I went to see this opening night, just the whole theater was just stunned, speechless as soon as Arthur stabbed Randall with that pair of scissors. Right there, and then started bashing his head into the wall. Then, of course, Gary is freaked out by this, so the audience can feel a little bit terrified for Gary, thinking he's going to be the next to die, but Arthur pretty much tells him, no, you could go, Gary, I'm not going to hurt you. Yeah, and of course, and he does kind of spook Gary, he likely just spooked Gary when he was to make him run to the door, so he could leave quicker, not to keep looking at Randall's body. Kind of like to stop him from seeing Randall's corpse. But then you find out that the door's been locked, and of course, Gary then kind of asks Arthur to fix the door lock, and right there you still kind of get scared for Gary, because thinking that Arthur's still going to kill him, but Arthur is true to his word that he's not going to kill Gary, so he does like remove the lock on the door so that Gary can leave. And he pretty much, the last thing he tells Gary is, you know, you were the only one that was nice to me, and right there, like, that kind of begins the death of Arthur Fleck, where he's kind of just becoming the Joker right there. That's pretty much the last you see of the Arthur Fleck we know. Then, of course, like, when Arthur leaves his apartment, he's on his way to the Murray studio. The two detectives that visited Arthur earlier, they were investigating Arthur's involvement in the subway murders. When they visit him at the hospital earlier, they immediately see him, they pursue him on a train full of clown protesters, and so Arthur causes a brawl on the subway train to escape, and one detective actually shoots and kills a protester, and so the other protesters get mad about this. They beat the detectives while Arthur escapes. Phoenix's Joker right here is a character studying psychological unraveling, whereas Ledger's Joker was an enigmatic force. The two performances really go different in their approach. Like, Ledger was mysterious and unpredictable. Phoenix was an intimate and haunting journey into the madness that really lies within all of us. And in terms of psychiality, like, Ledger's Joker was a nimble and unpredictable one, where his movements reflected the chaos he shows. Phoenix's Joker was a contorted figure, was a man pushed to the edge and beyond, and a gate that kind of mirrors the weight of his tortured soul from his troubled past. And as this story progresses, we really see Arthur pushed more and more towards who he will ultimately become, the Joker. But the things that happen to him are not contained to a comic book universe. And that's what really makes this film incredible. Because it's technically a comic book film, but it's not your typical comic book film. It actually feels more like a normal film with some comic book elements thrown into it. The tragic events that Arthur becomes a victim of really take part in things any average person could go through and can have happen to them. Like, enough terrible things happening to just about anybody who's like Arthur in real life, where either get ridiculed, being down, made you feel as if you're like nothing but a pile of trash. Then that person is definitely going to have a mental break. It's kind of a mix of history and severe mental issues that get to a person that really goes over the edge and just really kind of takes the whole world with them. And that's exactly what kind of happens to Arthur Fleck in this movie. Gotham treated him like shit. And eventually, like, social services cut off his medication, got fired from his job, society looked down onto him, had a shitty life. So this movie is pretty much where Arthur just immediately snaps and just really becomes a Joker. And this way, it kind of like puts Gotham into even more chaos than it already was. So now we get on to the finale, where after Arthur's escaped the two policemen, got the two policemen killed by the protesters on the subway, Arthur arrives at his studio, and so he asks Murray to introduce him as Joker. One executive is warning Murray not to put Arthur on TV, thinking because of all the riots he's hearing about. But like having introduced him to Joker is a reference to his earlier mockery of him, like back at the hospital scene when his failed stand-up routine got broadcasted. So the show goes live, and when Arthur appears on there, and so he ends up telling morbid jokes where it goes like, at first, like, he's happy to be on the Murray Franklin show, and he's kind of like frozen there for a little bit, and so he's like, you can see like he's a little bit happy to see all the crowd applauding him, and once he does sit down to be on the show, things don't really go smoothly, and so he tells morbid jokes like, knock, knock, who's there? It's the police, ma'am. Your son's been hit by a drunk driver. He's dead. And I don't know why I kind of find that quote funny or something, but I know that's not a funny joke, but it's not funny in real life, but it is kind of the way this whole scene gets kind of delivered, as I think just gets a bit of chuckle out of me, especially the trumpet going, wah, wow. And like this one other guest that's like sitting next to Arthur tells him, no, you cannot joke about that. Yeah, that's not funny, Arthur. That's not the kind of humor we do on the show. And so then, of course, he does like confess to his subway murders, like, ever since I killed those 3 Wall Street guys. And right there, like, this is also, and it rants about societal neglect on the downtrodden. And of course, like, this is such a well-acted moment from Joaquin Phoenix, and easily one of the best scenes he's done of his career. Have you seen what it's like out there, Murray? Everyone just yells and screams at each other. Nobody's civil anymore. No one thinks what it's like to be the other guy. And then rants about Thomas Wayne, or because men like Thomas Wayne cried about them on TV. So do you think people like Thomas Wayne care about what it feels to be somebody other than themselves? They don't. They think we'll just sit there and take it like good little boys, that we won't werewolf and go wild. And of course, he berates Murray for ridiculing him. You're awful, Murray. Me? How am I awful? Play my video. Inviting me on the show. You just wanted to make fun of me. You're just like the rest of them. And of course, you don't know the first thing about me, pal. Look at what happened because of what you did, what it led to. There are riots out there. 2 policemen are in critical condition. You're laughing. Someone was killed today because of what you did. I know. How about another joke, Murray? No, I think we've had enough of your jokes. What do you get when you cross a mentally ill loner with a society that abandons him and treats him like trash? I'll tell you what you get. You get what you fucking deserve. And after that joke, Arthur then turns around, shoots Murray in the fucking head during the broadcast. Like right there, that whole scene is definitely one of DC's best and well shot and scariest moments on film. Whereas because it starts off as a normal TV episode, like Arthur kind of feeling happy to finally be on the Murray Franklin show after he's idolized being on there for so long, and badly telling this joke that's not really funny joke, and confessing everything that's happened, and getting angry at Murray for wanting to make fun of him on live TV. And then getting his iconic joke line that pretty much leads to Murray Franklin's death on live television. Like right there, guys. That's the scene where Arthur immediately now is full on the Joker at this rate. Arthur Fleck is gone. It's now just purely the Joker, the iconic villain you see in the Batman media. And after he shoots Murray, throughout the film, where he has those little disabled laughs and stuff, this one is the first actually real genuine laugh he actually did for the first time in his life. It's really a perfect build up to his full-on completing his transition to the Joker. So after that, though, Arthur does get arrested, and there's riots erupting all over the city. Then looters then crash into the police car, and they carry Arthur and free him. Then, of course, though, this was a scene, I was wondering, was this really needed? During the riots, one rioter corners the Wayne family in an alley that's occurring near this theater that's occupied by some rich people that are running away in fear. And this person murders Thomas and his wife Martha, but spares Bruce. Yeah, it's the Wayne parents murder storyline we've seen a lot of Batman media before. I don't think we didn't need that bit. We did not need that scene right there. I mean, yeah, Thomas Wayne was in the film, yeah, but do we really need to see that bit again? If this is not really supposed to be setting up any Batman-related stuff? Because, the thing is, we've already seen this scene multiple times. We know Batman's backstory. His parents were killed in an alley. Both of them. I'm familiar with how Bruce Wayne became Batman. I don't think we need to see it in this movie. This isn't supposed to be about that. This is supposed to be about the Joker. How Arthur Fleck became the Joker. It's not really supposed to have much connection to Batman. I just don't think we needed this scene, to be honest. I think we could have just left this scene out. I mean, we know Thomas Wayne and Martha will be shot eventually. We didn't really need to see it. It could have been a newspaper line saying that, Thomas Wayne and Thomas and Martha found dead in alley. That could have been just a newspaper reveal around the very end of the movie. Then, of course, though, Arthur gets out of that broken police car after the protesters rescue him. He dances to the cheers of the protesters, and he smears blood on his face to the shape of a smile. And then, of course, though, the movie's not over yet. We do get one scene later that reveals that Arthur was eventually later found and arrested. I think those protesters also did get found and arrested as well. They very likely all were tracked down and eventually then put an end to and arrested all of them. But Arthur has been sent to Arkham Asylum, and he's laughing to himself about a joke during a session with his new therapist. He doesn't want to tell it to her, and reveals that she wouldn't understand it. So then, of course, after the therapy session, he then leaves and leaves on a trail of bloodied shoe prints as his orderly is chasing him down. And then, of course, the end pops up on the screen. That should have been the story. That should have been a sign saying the story is over. When you put the end on the screen, that's the end of the story. That's the end of Joker. Okay? The end. We did not need a sequel. The end should be the end that should be not touched. That's how this was supposed to end, this version of the character. This was not supposed to be a franchise, but for some weird reason, Todd Phillips and Warner Brothers thought this needed a sequel because Todd Phillips didn't learn jack shit from doing those shitty Hangover sequels. And the worst thing is, let's make this a musical. Yeah, from everything I've heard about this sequel just seems like a fuck you to all the people that love this movie. right there. Or just to the people who or the few people who just didn't like the movie. Right there. Like, it really sucks it got a sequel like that because this should have stayed a standalone movie. This did not end on any sequel setups. And like, hell, like when this movie was planned, this was not even supposed to start a franchise in the first place. But oh well. I can just pretend this is just a one and done film. I will likely be giving an epic rant on a sequel, but not right now. More on the sequel can be saved for that review. That leads us to the bad qualities of the film. Does Joker have bad qualities? I don't think so. Not to me anyways, but maybe to some people, yeah. I guess if I did have one, it's the Wayne parents being murdered. Like, I don't think that was neat. Like, I don't think we needed to see that again. Like, this is supposed to be an alternate Gotham that and I don't think even a Batman could pull out of its recession or depression. So, this could kind of be a Gotham that won't really have a Batman. In a way. Like, and like, maybe the movie could be a bit too disturbing for some people. Like back then, like not as disturbing as the people that tried to boycott this film when it was being advertised or being screened anywhere because they were worried about promoting real life violence and triggering people to start killing people. When that's not even the point of the movie at all. Like it's really not that violent. It's more disturbing. Disturbing, yeah, but not really violent. Then again, some of those people were still scarred from the Colorado shooting that happened during The Dark Knight Rises back in 2012, so that's definitely a pretty reasonable cause. I mean, like, that was a pretty dark story when that movie came out. Other than those, Joker, it's totally a masterpiece that is worth checking out, so I would totally get on with watching only this movie. If you've not seen it yet, just watch this and stop there. Stop after this one movie. Don't progress. Just pretend it's a standalone. You're better off doing that. So in the end, guys, Joker, it's so worth buying and watching for your DC collection, no doubt, because it is totally a terrific throwback to 70s thrillers with elements of comic book and Batman thrown into it. Anyways, guys, that's it for my view of Joker. And we're going to rate Joker. Here's how I'm going to rate this movie. So overall, if you are a fan of the Joker character and want to see an alternate take on the character, so totally watch and buy this movie for your DC collection, no doubt. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rate Joker, I'm going to give Joker a full-blown 10 out of 10. Alright guys, here we go. That wraps up the review for Joker. I'll put this back with all the other DC movies. Ugh. Fit in there. Get in there. Where you were before. Right next to The Dark Knight Rises. Yeah, now I want to know in the comments down below what you guys think of Joker. Whether you love this movie, whether you're one of the few that hates this movie. Yeah. Now, I guess that means we have to go on to the sequel now. Which almost just about every YouTuber I like has hated. Like everybody else. Cody Leach hated that film. Rambo Rat for Life hated that film. Fabio hated that film. Ryan Connor hated that movie too. He also did Everyone's Benefits Watch, and even he thought it fucking sucked. Nobody likes this. Literally nobody has liked this sequel. Like, I don't think I've seen a sequel get this much backlash since Halloween Ends 2 years ago. Wow. Like, apparently, like, everyone's calling one of the worst films of the year, so yeah, this is not going to be a fun watch. If it comes to the cheap theater, then I'll be lucky to even be able to watch it easier. If not, then I'll just stream it. I'll just stream it instead. But until then, guys, alright, that'll be it for this review. Thank you all for watching. If you like this and want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.